I found a hidden will revealing my wife's affair with her boss, and now she's claiming I'm stealing $250, $0 of our farm's inheritance. Please help me understand how she's manipulating everything to take it all. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, typing this out because I need to get it off my chest. The most shocking thing. It all started with a simple, almost meaningless discovery that turned my world upside down in ways I couldn't have imagined. I caught my wife, Jessica, cheating on me with her boss, Mark. That's not even the worst part. What really broke me was what I found hidden in her safe. A will that revealed a secret affair and a plan to steal a huge chunk of our farm's inheritance. Yeah, she's been lying right to my face, and I'm only just starting to see how deep the manipulation runs. Jessica and I have been married for about 7 years now. We live on a big family farm in Iowa, inherited from my grandparents. It's a good life, hard work, long hours, but honest. Jessica always seemed a little high maintenance, but I figured that's just her personality. She's always been a little bitchy when things don't go her way, quick to throw a tantrum, accuse me of not doing enough, or say I'm wasting money. But I never suspected she'd be capable of lying about something this big. I mean, I knew she was ambitious, but I thought she loved me. The signs started showing up about a month ago. She'd come home late from work, smelling different like perfume I didn't recognize. She'd get defensive when I asked her where she'd been, and her phone would be glued to her hand, always hiding the screen when I walked into the room. Little things at first, but enough to make me suspicious. I even caught her deleting texts a couple of times. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe she was just stressed or hiding something else. Then, one night, I decided to check her phone when she was in the shower. I know. I know that's invasive, but I was desperate. I found texts between her and Mark, her boss. They were talking about meeting up, sneaking around, and even explicit stuff. I saw enough to realize this wasn't just some innocent flirtation. I felt my stomach drop. The worst part, she'd been lying about her whereabouts every time I asked. She told me she was working late at the office, but the texts told a different story. That's when I started digging deeper. I remembered seeing a folder on her computer labeled legal documents that I'd dismissed before. Out of curiosity, I opened it. Inside, I found a scanned copy of a will, one I'd never seen before. It was her father's will, but it was strange. It mentioned a secret inheritance, and more shocking, it listed a specific amount, 250, that was supposed to go to her. The thing was, I knew we'd be getting that inheritance soon, but this will suggested she was planning to claim it early, and not just for herself. She was planning to manipulate the situation to take the entire amount, and she'd even written a plan to do it. I couldn't believe what I was reading. This was just about cheating. It was about betrayal on a scale I never imagined. The will also hinted at her trying to hide her affair from me, and even suggested she was planning to use her boss to get access to the money. I felt sick, furious, and betrayed all at once. How could she do this? How could she lie to me, cheat on me, and then try to steal from our family? I didn't want to believe it at first, but the evidence was staring me right in the face. The next day, I confronted her. I showed her the texts, the will, everything I'd found. Her reaction: she laughed, said I was overreacting, and called me paranoid. She told me I was just jealous, that Mark was just a friend, and that I was imagining things. She even accused me of trying to sabotage her career. I could see the fake tears, the angry tone. She was good at lying, but I knew her too well now. I could see the cracks in her story. I asked her why she was doing this, and her only response was that she deserved more than a farm and a simple life. She said I was holding her back, that she was tired of pretending to be happy. That moment shattered something inside me. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. I'd always thought we had a solid marriage built on trust. Turns out it was just a facade. She'd been planning her escape, her betrayal, and her theft right under my nose. I'd been blind. I had no idea she was capable of this level of deception. It's like I was living with a stranger, someone I thought I knew but clearly didn't. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what yet. All I knew was that my world had turned upside down, and I was left standing in the rubble, trying to figure out what was real and what wasn't. The betrayal runs deep, and now I'm left to pick up the pieces of what I thought was my life. I haven't even started to process everything, but one thing, for sure, this isn't over. After I confronted Jessica and she brushed off my concerns like I was overreacting, I knew I couldn't just let this go. I had the evidence, texts, the hidden will, the plan to siphon off the inheritance, and I felt like I was staring into a dark abyss. She kept insisting I was paranoid, that I was just jealous of her success and her ambition. But I wasn't stupid. I could see the lies piling up. I needed a plan, and fast. The first thing I did was start digging into her finances. Jessica's been controlling most of the money for years, claiming she wanted to handle everything because I was busy with the farm. But I knew that wasn't the full story. I pulled bank statements, looked at her credit card bills, and even checked her email accounts. I wanted to understand what she was planning, how far she'd go, and if she'd hidden any other surprises. What I found was even more disturbing. She'd been secretly transferring money to accounts I didn't recognize, accounts linked to her boss, Mark. It was clear she was already working on her exit plan, and she was using our farm's inheritance as her ticket out. I also discovered that Jessica had been meeting Mark at a fancy hotel downtown, places she had previously going to. I found receipts for dinners and drinks, and even hotel bookings, with her name on them. Every new piece of evidence just fueled my anger and frustration. How could she lie to my face for so long? How could she betray everything we built? I felt like I was losing my mind. This wasn't just a fling, it was a full-blown betrayal, and she was trying to manipulate the system to her advantage. I decided I needed to be more strategic. I couldn't confront her again without risking her destroying any evidence or covering her tracks further. So I started recording her phone calls when she wasn't around, secretly installing a spy app on her phone. I wanted to gather proof that she was actively planning to steal the inheritance and run off with Mark. Meanwhile, I kept calm on the surface, pretending everything was normal, while inside I was boiling with rage. I knew I had to protect what was ours, especially that inheritance. If she managed to get her hands on it, she'd probably cut me out entirely. One night I caught her sneaking out of the house after I went to bed. She was dressed in a tight dress, clutching a purse. I followed her at a distance, hiding behind trees and parked cars. She went into that hotel downtown and I watched her go inside. I felt like I was in some bad movie, my wife sneaking around with her boss planning to run away with our money. When she finally came out around 2 a.m., I followed her back home, feeling sick to my stomach. I was starting to realize just how deep her lies went and how much she was willing to risk for this affair and her greed. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy weight on my chest. I knew I couldn't let her keep going like this. I had to think about what to do next, whether to confront her again with all my evidence, or to take legal action before she managed to pull something even more damaging. I decided to call a lawyer I knew who specialized in family law and estate issues. I needed to understand my rights and how to protect the farm and the inheritance from being stolen. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Lisa, listened carefully and told me that I had a strong case if I could prove she was attempting to manipulate or steal the inheritance. She warned me that Jessica might try to claim she was entitled to her share, but I had the evidence to challenge her. While I was trying to process all this, Jessica started acting even more erratic. She was snapping at me for no reason, accusing me of spying on her, calling me paranoid. But I knew better. I could see her cracks starting to show. Every time I pressed her about her whereabouts or her plans, she'd get defensive, then try to gaslight me. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I was done being the naive husband who trusted blindly. Now I was playing her game and I was determined to win. I made up my mind that I'd confront her again, but this time with the evidence laid out. I was ready to call her bluff, to expose her lies in front of everyone. I wasn't going to let her walk away with our farm, our inheritance, or my dignity. This betrayal had awakened something in me, anger, yes, but also a resolve I never knew I had. I knew that whatever happened next, my life was never going to be the same. I had to protect what was mine, and I was prepared to do whatever it took. The day I decided to confront Jessica again, I felt a strange mix of determination and dread. I had all the evidence now, her secret texts with Mark, the receipts from the hotel, the bank transfers, and the copies of the will that she'd been trying to hide. I knew she'd deny everything, call me paranoid, or accuse me of stalking her. But I didn't care anymore. I was done playing nice. I wanted the truth out in the open, and I wanted her to face what she'd been doing behind my back. I set up a meeting in our living room, telling her I needed to talk about our future, a little lie to get her to come home. She arrived looking annoyed, already defensive, arms crossed as she sat down across from me. I pulled out the folder with all the evidence I'd gathered. I spread the papers out on the table and looked directly at her. "Jessica, I've had enough of your lies," I said calmly but firmly. "I know about you and Mark. I know about the hotel stays, the secret transfers, and that damned will. You're planning to steal our inheritance, and I won't let you do that. I've got proof, every text, every receipt, so tell me what the hell is going on." Her face went pale for a second, then she quickly recovered, scoffing. "You're crazy. You've been spying on me. This is all just a misunderstanding. Mark is just a friend, and the will, you're making things up. You're paranoid because you're insecure." I shook my head. "No, Jessica, I've been patient. I've ignored the little lies, but this is too much. You're betraying me, and worse, you're trying to take everything we have built. I should have seen it coming, the way you've been acting distant, the late nights, the secret calls. I found your plans, and I know what you're trying to do." Her eyes flashed with anger. "You're accusing me of everything, and I swear you're just jealous. You're insecure because I'm successful. I work hard, and I deserve more than this farm life. You're just a simpleton who can't see how much I've sacrificed for us." That was the moment I realized how deep her lies went. Her words were a shield, to twist everything around. She was good at manipulation, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I stood up, feeling the weight of everything I'd uncovered. "Jessica, I want you to leave," I said quietly but with authority. "I don't trust you anymore. I've got enough evidence to take this to the lawyer and the authorities if I have to. You're not taking our inheritance, and you're not going to ruin this farm." I saw her eyes flicker with panic for just a second, but she quickly masked it with anger. She got up, yelling, "You're crazy. I haven't done anything wrong. You're just jealous because I'm better than you. Mark and he's helping me get ahead, and you're just jealous of that." She stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. I sat there for a moment, stunned. The confrontation was over, but my mind was racing. I felt a mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had proof, and dread because I knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. She was a master manipulator, and I had to be prepared for whatever she'd throw at me next. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, her lies, her sneers, her fake tears. I knew she'd try to spin this as my fault, that she'd go to her family and friends claiming I was paranoid or trying to control her. But I also knew I couldn't let her get away with it. The inheritance was the only thing protecting the farm, and if she managed to manipulate the system enough, she could take everything. I called Lisa, my lawyer, first thing in the morning. She told me to gather all the evidence, document everything, and prepare for a legal battle. She warned me Jessica might try to claim she was entitled to her share, or even accuse me of abuse or harassment to cover her tracks. But I was ready. I'd be damned if I let her walk away with what's rightfully ours. As I hung up with Lisa, I looked out over the fields. The farm has been in my family for generations. I've worked my ass off to keep it afloat, and now I feel like I'm fighting for my very life. Jessica's betrayal has cut deep, but I'm not giving up, not without a fight. I've learned that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair, and sometimes the only way to protect what's yours is to be ruthless in defending it. I don't know what's coming next, but I do know one thing. I won't let her steal everything I've built. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations, late-night strategizing, and trying to keep everything together. Jessica, of course, didn't go quietly. She started throwing fits, accusing me of everything from controlling her to outright trying to ruin her reputation. She claimed I was stalking her, that I was insecure and paranoid, and even that I was trying to keep her from her rightful inheritance. The more she lied, the more I realized how skilled she was at twisting things around. It was like watching a master manipulator in action, and honestly, it was terrifying. I never thought she'd stoop this low, yet here we were. I kept collecting evidence, making sure everything was documented. I went through bank statements again, checked her phone records, and made copies of all the emails and messages. I wanted to be ready for whatever legal battle was coming. Jessica's behavior was escalating. She was calling me every name in the book, accusing me of trying to control her, of being a jealous husband who couldn't handle her success. She even started telling her friends I was abusive, which was a blatant lie, but I knew she'd try to spin her narrative to her advantage. One evening, I found out she had contacted her father, Henry, trying to sway him to support her side. I knew Henry, and I knew he was a traditional man, probably didn't want to get involved in all this mess. But Jessica was good at playing the victim, and she was trying to manipulate her way out of this. I decided I couldn't let her get away with it. I contacted my own lawyer, Lisa, and we planned to file a formal injunction to freeze any transfers or claims on the inheritance until the case was settled. I wanted to make sure she couldn't move any money or assets without my approval. The night I filed the legal papers, Jessica lost it. She came into my office, screaming, crying, and accusing me of trying to ruin her life. She said I was just jealous of her success and that I was trying to keep her down because I was insecure. She begged me to drop the case, saying she'd do anything to make this right, but I couldn't. I had already seen too much. I told her she needed to leave the house, that I didn't trust her anymore, and that I was going to protect what was ours, no matter what it took. That was the turning point. Jessica stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sat alone in the house, feeling a strange mixture of relief and dread. The pressure was immense. I knew she was capable of anything to get her way. I also knew she'd try to spin this to her family, her friends, and anyone who'd listen, painting herself as the victim. But I had the proof, and I was going to fight for what was rightfully ours. In the coming days, Jessica's manipulation tactics grew more aggressive. She started calling my friends, telling them I was abusive and controlling. She even sent a few anonymous messages to the local newspaper, claiming I was mistreating her and that I was trying to steal her inheritance. I was furious, but I kept my cool. I knew this was part of her game to discredit me, to make me look like the villain. All I cared about was protecting the farm, my family's legacy, and the money that was meant to stay in the family. Meanwhile, I continued working with Lisa on the legal front. We prepared a detailed case to prove Jessica's intent to defraud us. I had sworn affidavits from neighbors who saw her sneaking around late at night, and I had recordings of her calls with Mark, where they discussed the plan to run away with the inheritance. I was finally starting to feel like I had some control over the situation, but I knew it wasn't over yet. Jessica was dangerous, and I had to stay one step ahead. Every day I woke up feeling like I was walking a tightrope. I was angry, betrayed, and exhausted. My trust in Jessica was shattered, and I couldn't help but wonder how I'd been so blind for so long. I'd always prided myself on honesty and hard work, and now I was fighting to keep what was left of my life. The farm, my reputation, and my dignity, they were all on the line. I kept reminding myself that I had to stay strong because I knew Jessica wouldn't back down easily. The battle was just beginning, and I had no intention of letting her win. The legal process dragged on, and Jessica's tactics only grew more desperate. She started showing up unannounced, banging on my door, trying to guilt me into dropping the case. She told everyone I was an abusive monster, that I was trying to ruin her, and that I was just jealous of her success. It was sickening to see her spin everything, but I kept my cool. I had the evidence, and I knew I was fighting for my family's legacy. Still, every time she showed up, I felt a surge of anger and frustration. How did it come to this? How did I end up fighting my own wife for what was supposed to be our future? One day, I found out she'd been sneaking around with her boss, Mark, even more than I thought. She'd been meeting him at a different hotel, one I didn't even know about, and they'd been planning to run away together. I got hold of a new batch of messages, and what I read made my blood boil. They were talking about splitting the inheritance, about how Mark could help her get her hands on the money, and how they'd start fresh somewhere else. Jessica had been lying to me every step of the way, pretending everything was fine, while she plotted her escape and her share of the farm. That was the day I decided I'd had enough. I couldn't let her destroy everything I'd worked for, our family farm, my reputation, my life. I sat down with Lisa and laid out my plan. I was going to file for full legal control of the inheritance, and I was going to demand Jessica leave the property immediately. I also wanted a restraining order to keep her away from the farm and the money until everything was settled. Lisa agreed, and we moved quickly. I wanted to cut her out of the process as much as possible to prevent her from doing any more damage. Jessica's reaction was predictable. She accused me of trying to imprison her, of trying to control her life. She screamed and cried, claiming I was just jealous of her success, that I was trying to keep her down because I was insecure. She told everyone I was abusive and manipulative, but I knew better. I had the evidence and I was prepared to fight her in court if necessary. I had to protect the farm and I couldn't let her manipulate her way into stealing it all. The court date arrived faster than I'd expected. Jessica showed up looking haggard, her eyes red from crying. She tried to spin her story again, claiming she was the victim, that I was trying to ruin her reputation. But the judge wasn't buying it. I presented everything, the texts, the bank transfers, the will, the hotel receipts, the recordings, and made it clear that Jessica was trying to defraud us. The judge granted the temporary restraining order, freezing her access to the inheritance and ordering her to stay away from the farm. That day marked a turning point. Jessica was furious, but I felt a strange sense of relief. I knew she wasn't going to give up easily, but I also knew I had the law on my side now. I was finally taking control of the situation. As I watched her storm out of the courthouse, I realized that I'd been living in denial for too long. I'd trusted her, believed in our marriage, but she'd been planning her escape all along. The betrayal cut deep, but I was determined to see this through to the end. I couldn't let her win, not after everything we'd built. Now I'm just waiting for the final judgment, hoping that justice will be served. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I do know one thing. I've learned a lot about trust, betrayal, and the importance of protecting what's yours. Jessica may have tried to manipulate her way into taking everything, but I'm not going down that easy. This fight isn't over yet, but I'm ready for whatever comes next. I just want my farm, my life, and my dignity back. The final court hearing was a whirlwind, but I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me when the judge ruled in our favor. Jessica's attempts to manipulate the inheritance, the lies she spun, and her blatant betrayal were all laid bare. The judge confirmed that she had no legal claim to the $250, $0 inheritance, especially since she'd been caught trying to divert it through her secret plans with Mark. The court also ordered her to stay away from the farm and barred her from any further contact with me or the property until everything was finalized. When Jessica left the courtroom, she looked defeated but still managed to throw a parting shot. She yelled that I was just trying to ruin her, that I was insecure and controlling, classic gaslighting. But I didn't care. I knew the truth now, and I had the proof to back it up. The people there saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd been willing to destroy everything for her own gain. In the weeks that followed, I worked tirelessly to restore some sense of normalcy. I reclaimed control of the farm, making sure the legal mess was fully settled. I also took steps to repair my own emotional health, therapy, talking with close friends, and just trying to process everything I'd been through. It was a long, painful journey, but I knew I couldn't let her betrayal define me. I had to rebuild my trust in myself and in the life I wanted to create. Looking back, I realize how much I learned from this nightmare. I learned that trust is fragile, and sometimes the people you love the most can turn out to be the ones who hurt you the worst. I also learned that standing up for yourself, even when it's hard, is the only way to protect what matters. Jessica's lies and manipulations might have tried to break me, but I refused to let her win. Now I'm focusing on the future. I've made some tough decisions, selling off some of the land to pay off debts, investing in new equipment, and finally putting the past behind me. I've also started dating again, cautiously, but with renewed hope that I'll find someone trustworthy this time. I don't think I'll ever forget the betrayal, but I've learned that I'm stronger than I thought. My farm, my integrity, and my dignity are what matter most. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts, gather your evidence, and don't be afraid to fight for what's right. Sometimes the people closest to us can hide their true intentions behind a guise of love or success, but the truth always comes out in the end. Protect yourself, stand firm, and remember that even in the darkest moments, there's a chance to start over. I did, and I'm finally beginning to believe that I can rebuild what was broken.